Hi there. Not sure how many people are there. Let me check. Okay, I see 2 people have joined already. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes and then we'll get started. So if you're painting along with me, I have provided a link to the image, this image from Unsplash. You can have it on the side as a reference if you want to paint along. Otherwise, you can download it later whenever you want to paint. See, there is a pretty much good demand of floral subjects than any other, but I really enjoy painting fruits and food items actually a lot. Florals are always welcome actually. So I have already prepared the sketch on this paper, and before I go ahead, I'll talk about what paper and other supplies that I'm using today. This is Fabriano Artistico cold pressed professional grade paper. Last time we used the student grade paper from the same brand, and I was trying it yesterday, but it turned out very it was crumbling a lot because we needed to use wet on wet technique here. So I thought it would be great if I can use better paper. So in case if you want to use a lot of water, just try to use a paper which you cannot fold it like this, bend it like this. That is why today I thought I'll use a better paper. And the colors that I'm going to use are the same like my old trusty palette. It has a bunch of yellows and reds, and this is an orange. I think it's from Van Gogh, and I also have some other colors over here. So I'll be mixing and matching different shades, and we'll do some swatching first, and I'll show you how I'll approach the realism in this Mandarin. And as you can see in the image here, we need to capture some of the things that we get the realism in our painting. So this is a very prominent highlight which I think it's very important to achieve. There are many ways that we can achieve that, and I'll show you along the way. And then we have some reflected light over here. We also have some shadows in some parts, like under this leaf we have some shadow, and under the orange itself we have the shadow. So these are some of the fundamental techniques and points that we need to consider when we are painting with realistic style. Now I have the sketch ready over here. I made it a little darker so that you can see it on the screen. So I'm gonna use the kneaded eraser because I don't want the lines to be very dark, because once we paint over the pencil lines, we cannot actually remove them. We cannot erase the pencil. So it's better to make them lighter before you start painting. And I hope you can see the drawing here. If not, I can just show you like this. So before I go ahead and start with the painting, I'll show you how we can approach the colors. Now, if you don't have an orange at hand, what you can do is you can just mix red and yellow and yeah, just get orange. I'm not sure whether you guys can watch me, oh sorry, hear me properly or not. Please let me know in case my audio is not there. Let me know in the chat. It looks like everything is working fine. Okay, just marking down the leaf here. All right, so I will start with the wet wash in the whole area of this orange using this silver velvet brush. This is size 6. Use any brush that you are comfortable with. Just the paper, I would suggest if you can go with a good quality paper, but even if you have Canson Axel, that is also a good paper because that's little thicker than the Fabriano Studio. So just think about it and don't use a very thin paper for this project. And excuse me, today I have a little bit cold, so that's why my voice sounds so sick today, but I'll try not to cough. So once I have laid down the nice wash of water, you can just bend your paper like this, tilt your paper like this, and see if you can see the sheen on the whole area. If not, just cover that area. And we don't want the puddles on the paper, so it has to be a very uniform layer. And I intentionally marked down some area over here because I wanted to know like which area will be the highlighted area here. So I'm going to start with a yellow tone here and just drop in, let's say, like so. I'm going to leave this area as is. Can you guys hear me properly? I'm not sure. Please let me know in the chat. Because last time we had a problem with the mic. Today I intentionally did not use the mic, but I hope I'm audible. And I'm also adding a little bit of orange while the paper is still wet. Yes, this live will be available after the stream. You can watch it, watch the replay whenever you want to. Thank you, Susan. I thought people won't join today because this is not a very interesting subject, I guess. Okay, so you can see that I started out with the yellow and left some spot as a highlight, and then I started adding some dark tone over here, and maybe I'll add some orange over here as well. Now when we are working wet on wet, what happens is we need a lot of patience first because we need to wait for the paper to dry before we move on to the next layer. And yeah, so you might see me talking a lot instead of painting. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. So while we are waiting for the paper to dry, I can answer those questions. All right, I think I'll leave it for now because I don't want to go overboard and muddy up the colors. So let's wait for a few seconds, and if I did not bring my hair dryer from the top floor, otherwise I would have used that to speed up the process. Anyways, we can move on to the leaf, but as the leaf is touching the orange here, right, so we need to be very careful over on this part. So what I'm going to do is I'll start from the top part of the leaf here, this part, and then we'll, like in the meanwhile, I believe this would be, you know, a little bit of little bit dried, so we can come over here. And for the greens, I'm mixing. I'm sorry, I actually started talking about swatches and I did not do that. So let's just talk about some of the swatching while the paint is drying, and then we can move on to the leaf. Okay, so what you can do is you can check out different shades, whatever you have. So this is one yellow, this is azo yellow, I guess, and I really like this shade because it's somewhere in the middle, in between orange and yellow, lemon yellow. So this is a good starting point if you have something like this. And you can also start mixing the lemon yellow and add a touch of maybe some red, but not too much. Let's see, the red is very dominant, so you need to be very careful with that. And once you add that, you will get something similar to this yellow, right? So just try to get the sense of which colors you would like to use. I don't really pre-plan with the shades beforehand, and you can see that I'm just mixing the colors as I go. And yeah, this is another orange from straight from the tube. This was from Van Gogh. I don't use it as it is because I really feel it is very saturated, so I usually mix it with some yellows and a little bit of red and then use it. So I really like this shade, and if required, I'll add some more orange to it, maybe more. Something like this. And for the greens, there are different shades of greens here, similar to last time what we did. We can pick up some sap green and add a little bit of lemon yellow to that, or any yellow, not just lemon yellow. And for the middle tones, this is kind of pure sap green. And if you want a darker tone, I usually add an indigo. Here is my mix actually. So with indigo, it becomes very dark. It's a cooler, dark green shade. And for the darker tone, where we need some shadows in the orange, what you can do is you can add to this mix, maybe add a little bit of red and a touch of this purple right here, just to make it a little muddy, and then we get this muddy orange. And we'll see how it looks when we paint on the orange. Okay, so it's kind of dried now, and we can start with another layer. So let's just finish up, or maybe do one more layer of the orange, and then we'll move on to the leaf. And for that, I'll take some more yellow, mixing orange in that, maybe more. And this time I'm not going to do a very flat wash, because if you can imagine, looking at the skin of the orange, we have some textured, skin of, we see some texture over there. So just to achieve that textural look, what I normally do is I use my brush and just make such marks like this. And in between, I'll keep on adding some darker tone as well. Something like this. Believe me, there are so many ways you can achieve similar results. It's just that it depends on what you actually enjoy doing. So nothing is wrong or right here. For such subjects where we have some texture on the surface, I normally go with such marks using my brush. We can also simply lay flat color, and then at the end we can bring on some more texture. So as I'm going down, I'm gonna add some muddy colors like this. And are you guys painting along, or you're just watching? Let me know. I would love to see what you make. Last time some people actually shared their projects and they were so beautiful. It was really interesting. Okay, so now I'm gonna leave it for some time so that this layer dries. And if we don't like this look, we can actually come over and use some water and just scribble with the brush, and everything would be fine, so don't worry. And just one thing, washing the brush and softening these edges over here. We don't want the harsh edges. And we can also do the same thing here if you want. Let's do this. I'll just show you how. Simply using wet brush, no color, and just dabbing like this, just to avoid those harsh edges. All right. And now I'll leave it for some time, and then we'll move on to the leaf. For the leaf, again, I'm gonna use the wet on wet. You can use wet on dry if you want to. And I'll just cover the top part of the leaf first, just with water. And if you can see the reference image, you would see this part is quite dark as compared to the lower part, because the light is directly coming on this area. So I'm gonna use the darker tone of green here, but starting with the lighter tone first, and just dropping in some of the parts like so. Now I'll take some dark tone, and as I see in the image, this part is very, very dark. Just looking at the image again and just following what we see. If you notice that I'm just using the tip of my brush here, that's it. And maybe just scribble over here, leave it for now. And while this part is drying. I'm not gonna touch this part because I don't want the colors to mix together while they are wet. So let's move on to the stem. And for the stem, I think I'm gonna use a smaller brush. Let's see. Okay, this one is good. So I'm gonna use a small King Art Supplies brush again. This has a very nice point. Use whatever you have and you're comfortable with. And for the stem, what you can do is take some dark green, and this part on the right hand side we have the shadow, and on the left hand side we have the highlight. So I'm gonna just draw like I'm using a pen. Something like this. I'm being careful here because, you know, this part is still wet. So this is one thing we need to be careful about when we are painting realistic subjects. So what I will do is I'll just slightly mark down some part of the stem with this green, not too wet, keeping it very light, and then taking the lighter green and covering the left part of the stem. At this point it's very raw, so not to worry, and you can check if the paint is still wet. Yes, it is still wet, so let's wait for a few moments and then we can add some drop shadow, the shadow under the orange here and some dark areas here, and then we'll come back to the leaf. And in the meanwhile, if you want to ask any questions or if you want me to do any other sessions like this, if you have any subject that you would like me to cover, I'll definitely love to know that, because sometimes coming up with my own ideas is really not very easy, and people may not be interested in what I am interested in. So if you have any subject that you would like me to paint in the next session, please put that in the chat. And I'm just waiting for it to dry. So I was experimenting yesterday, and this is also the same paper, and it was coming out really good. The reason it is buckled up is because I was doing some other painting on the other side of the paper. I always try to use both sides when I'm experimenting, and with the professional grade paper, it's a really good quality that you can use both sides without wasting the paper. So yeah, so you can see that we have such a nice blend here and a very nice transition, and I did not use the technique that I used today. So every time I'm painting with watercolors, it's just very intuitive, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm gonna do. Like today I was not very well, you know, organized with the set of, you know, instructions that I want to give here, maybe due to I was not feeling very well. But yeah, I actually enjoy such sessions. Okay, so lots of talking today. I should not be talking that much. Okay, let's move on to this part, and again I'm gonna add some water. And this part is kind of a little bluish, so I'm taking very slight cerulean blue, very slight, and just dropping in here. Right now you would see, oh my god, what is she doing? But believe me, it's gonna make sense after some time. And then dropping in the dark green. green over here. I think we need more dark here. And just washing the brush and just going to go over like this so that I can leave the highlights and lifting some paint over here like so. And then again we'll leave it to dry, and let's move on to our orange now. For this bottom part, what I'm gonna do is I want to add a little more dark tone, so I'm gonna take very dark, some magenta, and let's see how it works. This is too dark there. Let's see. I think we can use this. Looks good. So you can see I'm just experimenting whenever I'm adding new shades. Now I am just painting very gently on the right hand side and the bottom. I will wash the brush and gently soften these edges like this. And if you want, you can also lift some of the paint over here for the reflected light, but honestly you don't have to do that. It's completely your choice. The image that we are using today has a reflected light over here, and to make it more prominent, what we can do is we can come over at the end and use a gel pen or gouache, white gouache, and just add some dots on top. That's it. And you can see I have a little bit of paint spilled over on the side. I'll just use a very clean and a little stiff brush just to scrub it to make it neater. And sometimes when we are working on such paper, what happens is while using wet on wet technique, you can see we get very hard edges, right? Like this. I hope you can see that. To fix that, I'm not going to use a very soft brush. For that, I use such brush like nylon or any synthetic brush, and just press it like this and then scrub it. Maybe add a little bit water, something like this. Okay, and same thing here. Okay, looks good. I think we need to add some dark tone over here as well. And simply going under this also have a, I just remembered, I have a Skillshare class on a similar subject, and that was my first class that I published in 2018. While I was painting this, I just recalled that. That was my first ever video actually, like that. Okay, so we'll leave it like this. Now let's come over here and let's add some shadow. For that, you can use Payne's gray, you can use you can mix different complementary colors like blue and orange to make a gray shade. What I normally do is I take some Payne's gray and make it a little muddy by mixing whatever I have in the palette. So I'm not very particular about mixing what I want to. I'm not very particular about, you know, taking very, you know, proper shades for that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make one line going, yeah, the light is falling here, so it should be in this direction. For a moment I thought I'm doing it on the opposite side. So right now you would think, okay, it looks very dark, but we are going to fix that. Now washing the brush, softening the edges and spreading the paint a little like this. If you want, you can make it darker. I think I can make it darker right where the shadow is just touching the fruit, like so. And then again spreading it a little like that. Now let's move on to our leaf and the stem. For that I'm going to use a this smaller brush, and what I need to do is we need some dark tone of green. Okay. And I just add some dark blue in that. And what I'm gonna do is I'll use it like as if I'm painting with a marker or a pen, and just coloring the dark shades where I see in the image. So I'm constantly looking at the reference image and just following that. Once I'm done with that, I'll wash the brush and just scrub it over to soften these harsh edges. Okay, again going to this side and doing the same thing. Wherever I see dark tones, I'll just mark them down. And like this. Okay, and then again softening the edges. And then leave it. One more thing that we need to do is this edge of the leaf needs to look a little more darker than the whole leaf. So I'm taking very dark tone on the tip of the brush and just painting it like this. like so. Now let's move on to the stem. We're almost done with the painting, and it's simple. It was not a very difficult subject. So yeah, just making again those marks which we did, putting the dark tones on the right. And this time I'm not going to add anything on the left. I'm just going to soften these edges like this. And the top of the the stem needs to be something very muddy color, a neutral color. So I'm just taking a little bit of this neutral shade and will paint with this brownish tone. You can actually use green for this part also. And the last thing that we need to do is, not the last thing, one more thing is left. So we need to just add some details here. So I'm just taking some paint here and simply making those star shape where the stem is connected with the fruit. And then we can add some dots. So for that, let's take some of this ochre, yellow ochre, and this is optional. Like if you are not comfortable with this part, you can leave it like that. I'm just going to add a little bit of dots, not much, because I personally don't like doing this. I just wanted to show you how you can achieve this result. And yeah, I think we need to add some more dark here. Perfect. And what I can do is, yeah, one last thing that I need to do on the stem is just to add more darkness somewhere where we see some edges or joints, something like this. It will give it more depth. Okay, sounds good. One more thing, one more depth over here. A little bit of, we need to show that, okay, how can I explain that? The stem is, kind of embedded in the fruit. So we need to give that kind of look, or I don't know what's the right word for that. 3D look, something like that. Okay. Let's do one more thing. I'm just taking some purple and just adding over here. Okay. And I can go on and add more details, but I think I'll leave it here for today. But one more thing that you can do is, if you have a jelly roll pen, something like this, or if you have a white gouache, you can use that to add some more highlights. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna add some white dots where the highlights are supposed to be on the leaf, on the stem, on this area. Maybe some here. And if you want, you can actually add more on the leaf, but I think it's looking fine. I did not add the veins to the leaf. If you want, just take some paint, the darker tone or whatever you think, and just use your brush like this. And here's our realistic Mandarin. So honestly, I can actually add more details by adding more shadow and highlights, but I think it's looking good so far, and I'll leave it for now. And if you have any questions, please do leave them in the chat now, so we can I can answer those. And I probably will be planning another session like this in March. And if you have any recommendations for the subject, I really appreciate that, because that helps me in deciding what to paint and deciding everything on that. So let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed. Any questions, please put them in the chat. So I'll wait for like 2-3 minutes and then we'll sign off. And thank you for joining, guys. It's real fun working with live audience and painting like this. Thank you for joining, Susan. Any questions, please let me know. Or any particular subject that you're interested in, let me know that too. All right then, I think no questions. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.